You're watching the courtroom fill with tension so thick it could split the air. The judge hasn't even sat down yet, but murmurs are already sweeping through the pews. Karmelo Anthony's parents have just been indicted for first-degree murder, not for pulling the knife themselves, but for what prosecutors now claim was a coordinated effort to cover up the entire stabbing incident. You feel the mood shift. This isn't just about Karmelo anymore. This is about whether the people who raised him helped protect a killer. The allegations are explosive, that Karmelo's parents, fully aware of what he'd done, still funneled money into defense campaigns, publicly backed false narratives, and may have even tampered with timelines and communications to shield their son. The district attorney's office isn't holding back either. They're pushing the claim that from the moment the knife entered Austin Metcalf's chest, the Anthony family went into full damage control. Not grief, not shock, strategy. But it's not just what the prosecutors are saying, it's how they're saying it. In a rare move, the DA released a public video outlining the indictment, signaling to the nation that this case matters beyond the courtroom. When something like this happens at a school event, he says, it shakes people to the core. And then the bombshell. Karmelo's parents are officially accused of helping conceal evidence, suppressing facts, and leveraging public sympathy for financial gain. You're left staring at the headlines, the quotes, the footage, and asking yourself, was this ever about justice, or was it always about survival? When a family's love crosses into protection at all costs, where do you draw the line? Would your parents do the same, even if it meant covering for murder? It's not just about guilt or innocence anymore. It's about integrity, and you can feel the tide turning. What once looked like a family seeking justice now feels like a family playing a high-stakes game of optics and money. Would you donate to someone again if you felt like you'd been lied to? You're seated in the back row of a packed courtroom when the whispers begin. A quiet buzz travels from one bench to the next. All eyes shift toward the prosecution table, because what they just revealed has sent shockwaves through the room. Karmelo Anthony's parents aren't just under scrutiny for what their son did. They're now accused of playing a direct role in covering it up. The indictment hits like a gut punch. First-degree murder charges are on the table. But the real twist? Prosecutors allege that Karmelo's parents knew he was guilty, and instead of encouraging a plea deal, they doubled down, funded a public campaign, and even misled donors. In their own words, they should have never gone through all of this knowing that boy was guilty. You glance at the jury box. One juror's jaw tightens. Another scribbles something down. The prosecution leans into the silence and plays a recorded clip. It's a legal expert, explaining why the self-defense claim holds no water. Even if Austin pushed him, even if he punched him, stabbing someone in the chest with a knife, that's not self-defense. That's lethal escalation. The mood darkens. Behind the defense table, Karmelo's mother clutches a tissue, while his father stares blankly ahead. The camera pans to the gallery, a mix of silent supporters and skeptical donors. And that's when the prosecutor drops one more detail, the timeline. According to them, the family had every opportunity to come clean, encourage a plea, and spare the community this trauma. Instead, they chose to make it a spectacle. And now people are wondering, if your child was guilty, would you protect them at all costs, or do the right thing and help the truth come out? What would you have done if you were the parent sitting at that table? You hear a faint gasp in the courtroom as the prosecutor reveals a paper trail, one that connects the Anthony family's public pleas with behind-the-scenes financial decisions that now raise even more eyebrows. The judge pauses to examine a document marked as Exhibit 12. It's a screenshot of the Give, Send, Go fundraising page. The goal? $1.3 million. The amount already raised? Over $500,000. But that's not the shock. What turns heads is what came next. Just 24 hours after claiming indigent status, meaning legally unable to afford a lawyer, Karmelo's family updated their fundraiser asking for more, and at the same time, they filed for a public defender, citing financial hardship. You watch the prosecution circle back to the contradiction, repeating it slowly, $500,000 raised, yet claiming they're broke. In the gallery, donors shift uncomfortably. One woman whispers to her friend, "Where did the money go?" That question lingers in the air as the prosecutor then shows internal messages and video clips of Karmelo's mother, confirming they'd already accessed the funds weeks ago. And yet, legal representation is still being crowdsourced. The jury listens to an expert break it down. Retainer fees for lawyers like the one the Anthonys hired typically range from $10,000 to $30,000. Hourly rates hover around $400 to $500. But nothing in the family's spending reports explains why another $800,000 is suddenly needed. And now people are wondering, was the money meant to help their son, or to help themselves? Would you keep donating if these documents surfaced after your name was already on the list? You're watching the prosecutor now bring up something even more damaging, a set of tweets and court records that suggest a deliberate attempt to manipulate public sympathy. The courtroom projector flicks to a tweet from the Anthony family's legal representative, claiming they were denied access to fundraising funds until recently. But just days earlier, the same representative publicly confirmed on video that they'd already begun withdrawing the money. The timeline doesn't add up. The judge's expression tightens. Jurors murmur, and donors, some of whom are now in the courtroom, shift again in their seats. A few look down at their phones, likely checking their own donations, reading updates they hadn't questioned before. One man is seen whispering to his wife, "This can't be what we gave to." Then comes the moment no one expected. The prosecutor alleges that part of the strategy may have involved prolonging the legal process, not to secure justice, but to stretch out the donation window. They present screenshots showing the Give Send Go page being updated in sync with major media events, the indictment, the first bond hearing, even viral clips posted by activists, every public development, followed by a donation push. The defense tries to object, but the judge allows it. Intent matters, she says, especially when public funds are involved. The next image is a list of purchases allegedly made by family members: hotel stays, event bookings, and vague consulting fees. And now people are starting to ask, did this case become less about justice and more about opportunity? Would you still defend your child if the world believed you were using their crime as a cash grab? You're sitting in court when the prosecution turns to what may be the most damning detail of all: the indictment for first-degree murder, not just against Karmelo Anthony, but now formally extended to his parents as well. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. A woman in the back row clutches her chest. Someone whispers, "They knew?" The lead prosecutor raises a printed indictment. "The parents of Karmelo Anthony are being charged as accessories to murder," she states. "Not after the fact, but during the cover-up. We have reason to believe they aided in destroying or concealing evidence and knowingly obstructed the investigation from day one." You can feel the air leave the room. The defense shifts visibly, but says nothing. They seem blindsided. The judge calls for order as murmurs intensify. Meanwhile, the screen behind the prosecutor displays surveillance footage timestamps and call logs from the day of the stabbing, calls allegedly made between Karmelo and his parents before police were contacted. Then comes the prosecutor's final blow, a voicemail recording. The courtroom falls silent as a crackling voice plays through the speaker. A woman, believed to be Karmelo's mother, saying, "They ain't got cameras, right? We can clean it up. Just say it was self-defense and don't say nothing else." Karmelo doesn't respond in the clip, but the timestamp places the call 14 minutes after the incident and before law enforcement arrived. One juror presses her lips tightly, another scratches a note down furiously, and the judge leans forward in her seat. The courtroom has shifted. This is no longer just about a fatal stabbing. This is about a family-wide conspiracy. And now, the public is left wondering, if the people closest to you help hide your crime, are they protecting you or enabling something far darker? You're outside the courthouse now, but the noise hasn't faded. It's grown. Reporters swarm, protesters chant, supporters and critics of the Anthony family collide in a frenzy of emotion, banners waving on both sides. One group screams, "Justice for Austin," while another defiantly holds up signs reading, "Free Karmelo" and "They did what any parent would do." But the headlines are clear. Both parents of Karmelo Anthony have officially been indicted for their alleged role in helping cover up the murder of Austin Metcalf. Inside the building, as the Anthony family is led out in handcuffs, Karmelo's mother keeps her eyes on the ground. His father doesn't speak. Neither of them appear shocked. It's as if they knew this day was coming. One reporter yells, "Do you regret hiding the truth?" There's no response, just silence, punctuated by the clicks of camera shutters. Back online, the backlash is immediate. People begin digging through donation records, demanding refunds. Others post receipts showing thousands sent through crowdfunding platforms now believed to have financed private attorneys, not necessities. One viral comment reads, "So we weren't funding legal help, we were funding the cover-up." Meanwhile, the Metcalf family issues a brief statement. "We're relieved that the full truth is beginning to emerge. No family should have to lose a son and watch the ones responsible walk free. We want justice, not just for Austin, but for every family that's ever been silenced." And now people are starting to ask, if the Anthony family went to these lengths to protect their son, fundraising, evading, allegedly tampering with evidence, then how many others may have been complicit, and how far were they willing to go to rewrite the story? Would you still defend your child if it meant losing everything else?